Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2023 Chevy Colorado, we're going to be showing you how to install the REDARC Tow-Pro Liberty trailer brake controller. And we're going to be doing that in conjunction with the REDARC Universal adapter plug. But before we get into that, let's just take a minute, check this out, and make sure it's going to work for you. For those of you pulling trailers around that have brakes on them, you're going to need a way to apply those brakes. That way you're not just solely relying on your Colorado to do all the stopping. And that's where a trailer brake controller like the REDARC is going to come into play. Whenever you hit the brakes in here, trailer brakes will engage, bringing you to a safe stop. And with the Tow-Pro Liberty, it's going to work with trailers that have either one or two axles, so perfect for the Colorado. And it'll work with trailers that have electric brakes, which the vast majority of trailers are going to be set up that way. But it'll also work with electric over hydraulic if yours is set up in that fashion. So regardless what you got, you're in good shape. And one of the my favorite things about this brake controller is how it's going to look. It's very small. The only thing you're going to be able to see is this knob here, so it's not going to get in your way. Almost looks like a factory type option. And that's compared to the more traditional style brake controllers, what I call them, that would usually get mounted up to the dash somewhere. And a lot of new vehicles, it's just tough to even find a spot to put these. In the Colorado, you got quite a bit of room to work, but being more of a mid-sized truck, if you had this mounted up here, it does take away a little bit from your leg room. So if that's something that's going to bother you, that's where the REDARC is really going to shine there, because you won't have to deal with this big box. With the REDARC, you're not going to have to sacrifice usability for the appearance of it. It's still super easy to figure out, very user-friendly. All of your adjustments are going to be made with this knob here, and so you can kind of dial things up or down. If you push down on the knob, that's going to be your manual override. So when you do that, that'll just send power just to the trailer's brakes. And you'd use that in the event of a sway situation. Usually if your trailer starts to get away from you a little bit, you can push that down and kind of feather the power up if possible. Just slow it down, straighten it back out. This is going to be a proportional type brake controller, which is what I recommend 99% of the time. It just makes for a better braking experience, at least in my opinion. So what that means, what proportional means is however hard you hit the brakes in your Colorado, that's how hard the brakes are going to be applied on the trailer. So you kind of match the pressure. So for example, if you're rolling up to a stop sign or something, you're halfway down on the brake, trailer's going to respond the same way. On the other hand, if you have to come to an emergency stop and have to stand on that brake pedal, trailer's going to do the same thing. So the trailer's not going to be fighting the truck or the truck fighting the trailer. It'll just stop as one whole cohesive unit. The numbers on the knob are going to indicate to you what your brake force is set at. So it is adjustable from 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, 0 being the lowest. And a good place to start is usually somewhere in the middle. So for example, you might use this, let's say, if you're pulling your trailer and it's empty, probably don't need a ton of braking force, right? So you could dial that down to maybe a 2 or a 3, something like that. And then let's say if you get the trailer loaded up, it's heavy, probably need to dial it up a little bit, get a little extra braking power set up so you can ramp it up. And it's so easy to adjust. You can do this on the fly and really fine-tune everything to your particular application or whatever you're going to be pulling. And this also has what's called the park brake feature. And so what happens let's say if you're stuck at a red light and you're on the brakes for longer than 3 seconds, a brake controller will recognize that you're stationary, you're not moving, and it'll apply the trailer's brakes in an intelligent manner, dialing the power down or whatever it needs to do. That way you're not putting unnecessary wear and tear on your trailer's brakes. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a really nice fit for the Colorado. I'm a big fan of these REDARCs. We do a lot of them. especially on more late model vehicles. They flat out work. You know, they're reliable, and can't really ask for too much more, especially with this one. Kind of a perfect matchup for the types of trailers that the Colorado is going to be likely to pull around and everything like that. So definitely worth considering if you're looking for a brake controller for your truck. As far as the installation goes, on this truck, really not too bad. You do remove a couple of panels, which are pretty easy to get to. We have some factory wires that we connect the adapter plug to. Mount everything up, mount this up. That's really all there is to it. I will say if you don't have any butt connectors, you will need to pick some of those up. I use a total of 4, 2 yellow ones and 2 blue ones to make our connections. But aside from that, you'll have pretty much everything you need. But with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and get started on it now.
If you don't feel like this is something you can tackle or don't have the time or feel like messing with it, no big deal. You can always check out our dealer locator network, and hopefully that can get you going in the right direction as far as finding a shop that can help you out with the install.
To begin our installation, we're going to be working here in the front of our Colorado, down here in this area. And what we're going to do first is just remove a couple of panels. That way we can get access to the wires that we need to work with and just give us more room to see and work in general. We'll go ahead and get the panel under our steering wheel here removed first. So on the bottom edge of it, you're going to have 2 7mm head screws, one here and then one just like it on the other end of our panel. We'll go ahead and get our socket and get those removed. There's also going to be a pushpin style fastener right here. To get these out, you can take a flathead screwdriver, just pry underneath the head of it. So work it out, and you can pop the whole base out. We'll have this panel here too, which we'll have to remove because I believe, or at least it feels like, there's another fastener maybe holding this one on. So with these, you can take a trim tool, kind of just pry behind it. A lot of times too, you can just pop these right off with your hands. Not even needing a tool, but that slides out of the way. And looks like there is this fastener here, 7mm. Pull that out. And then start to just pop this center section off here. And I guess if you want, you can detach your lever there that pops the hood. If I can get a good grip on it here. Kind of just push down on that. And while you're pushing down, you can slide this back. And now this panel's free. We can set it off to the side out of our way. We can pop this threshold piece off now. And with it, I'm just using my trim tool. I'm prying underneath of it. Working my way down here. Ultimately, we're trying to get this kick panel off. It looked like these were 2 separate pieces, but I think it might just be one big piece. But either way, you can pop that off and set it to the side. And now we can get to our wiring that we need to set up for our brake controller. These are the wires that we're going to work with. So you should have 4 of them that are just kind of capped off, if you will. I'm taped up here, so I'm going to remove that so you can actually see what's going on. And a lot of times, or sometimes rather, you might be able to check your owner's manual and there might be some information in there as to what wire controls what, but it's still not a bad idea to test them, because I have found some diagrams online and you know, give you a good starting point. But sometimes the wire colors aren't always going to be exact and match up, so you can test them. And what you're looking for is battery power, a ground, a brake signal, and then by using a process of elimination, you can find the electric brake output, so the wire that would allow the power from the brake controller to go through to the back of your 7-way. So I'm just going to start with our power wire. I believe it is this one here. Usually the power wires are thicker, and usually the electric brake output wire is thicker, generally speaking. But I'm just using a test light, so on one end I got it grounded out to the chassis, and if we probe this wire we should have power, which we do. So in our case, this red wire with the green stripe is power, and we'll see about our brake signal now. It's usually a thinner wire, so right here I have a white wire with a blue stripe. If I hit our brake pedal, this should light up, which it is. If I let off the pedal, it goes away. So that's our brake signal, and with these two remaining ones, I got a good feeling this will be our electric brake output, and this will be our ground, but I'll go ahead and test these, figure out what does what, and go from there. Got these figured out, and what I thought was indeed correct. So if I got power on our red wire and I ground it to this, in our case it's just all white wire, the power goes through, so I know it's getting ground. It's a solid ground, so that's what that is. And then that leaves this, in our case, blue wire. It has a purple stripe running through it. That's going to be for our electric brake output. I grabbed our REDARC adapter plug and get it prepped. The ends on it are already pre-stripped, which is pretty convenient. I'm using a total of 4 butt connectors, 2 blue ones and 2 yellow ones. The blue ones are a little bit smaller, or for smaller wires. The yellow ones are for a little bit larger wires. The red wire from our REDARC adapter and the white wire from the adapter, you want to crimp on blue connectors. And then the black wire and the blue wire from the adapter plug, you want to crimp on the larger yellow connectors. And so the way you'd use these butt connectors, you know, put it over the bare end of the wire, and just crimp it down. And this is set up. And here things can kind of get a little confusing, if you will, just because all the colors are kind of mismatched. So the white wire from the REDARC plug, that's going to be ground. And so that'll go to the all white factory wire there. The black wire from the REDARC adapter plug, that's going to be our power. And so that'll go to the red wire with the green stripe, our factory wiring. The blue wire from the REDARC adapter plug, that's going to be the electric brake output. And so that'll get connected to the blue wire with the purple stripe from the factory. And then the red wire from our REDARC adapter plug, that's going to be the brake signal. And so that'll get connected to the white wire with the blue stripe there from the factory. And I'm just going to do these one at a time. You know, I don't want to just cut all these ends off, because this, you know, factory red wire is hot. It's got power going to it, so keep that in mind. The way you'd make these connections, though, we'll just start with our ground here. We'll clip the ends off, and then strip the insulation back a bit. And these are somewhat thin too, so I might strip them long. Give it a good twist. I'm just going to fold that over. That way it'll fit in the butt connector better. And then, like I said, that's the ground, so that'll get plugged into this butt connector. I'll crimp it down. I'm just going to work my way across here, repeating that process. Got all of our wires hooked up, and this is how they turned out. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to come back with some electrical tape, and I'll tape up each individual connection a little bit, come back and wrap them all together. We can find a spot to get our brake controller box mounted up, and with these you can put them pretty much anywhere. You just want to make sure that your plug will reach it, and you can mount them in any orientation. You just want to mount them up to something solid. You want to avoid zip tying it to a wire that can move around or something like that. In our case, this little bracket here, it already has a couple of holes in it, and it looks like they're going to line up pretty much perfectly with our ends here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably just put a screw or something in from the back side and put that in and tighten it down, and kind of go from there. So if that ends up working out, I'll show you how it turned out. If not, we can find another location here. It definitely looks like the plan here is going to work. And how I plan on securing it, I just have a small machine screw and a flat washer. I'm going to put it through the metal, put this through it like that. And then I have a flange nut that we'll use to secure it. So that's my plan here, but just looking at it, before we even bother to bolt it up, it might be kind of hard to get everything plugged in. So I'm just going to do that now. This plug will match up there. And as far as the bottom one goes, you have a end that has a 90 in it and then a straight end. You can use either one. Looks like the straight would work better for us in here. A lot of times, the other end anyway goes into the knob. A lot of times you use that 90 on it with space limitations. So we'll plug that in. And now I'll get this thing completely bolted up and show you what it looks like. Got this thing mounted up, and here's how it turned out. I think it should work really good. It's solid, not going anywhere. To be honest, I was having a little bit of trouble keeping the bolt and the washer in place, so I was trying to put this over it. Kept wanting to back out and move around on me, so I did just take a piece of tape and put it on the head of the bolt and the washer and just taped it to the inside of this, and that seemed to help out a lot. Held it in place a lot better. Made it easier to get the controller over the bolt and get the flange nut started. We need to figure out a place to mount our knob now, and ideally you'd want this in a spot that's easy to see and get to. On this Colorado, I think what I'm going to do, since right here is completely wide open, that'd make for a really ideal spot to put this. That's probably what we'll go with, especially too, because on this panel, there's some ribs and stuff here, but right here in this area, it's flat. So it'll be a lot easier to work with. So, honestly, you can put this wherever you want. You're just kind of limited to how much space you have to work behind there, because the rest of the switch is going to have to go in there as well. Put some tape on our panel so we could mark on it and figure out what we need to do. They do give you this little bezel here, which you can use if you want. You don't have to. I always end up using it at the very least as a guide, more or less. But what you want, the part, that little nipple that comes up there, you want that to face in the 12 o'clock position. And so that's what I did. And then just use that as a template to make our two holes. The small hole, you can use an 1/8 inch drill bit. The bigger one, you can use a 3/8. So we'll just carefully get these drilled out here. Got the holes drilled out, and sometimes you can come in here with a utility knife or something and just kind of scrape away some of the burrs on the plastic. But then you can grab your switch, and you want to dial that all the way counterclockwise. And so that'll go through the back here. Now I'm going to actually use the ring because we can. I'll kind of just sit into place. I'll line everything up there. Once we're happy with it and verify fitment, we can grab the other two pieces. The other two pieces, you're going to have this nut here and thread that on. And with these, be gentle. They're really easy to strip out, get cross-threaded, so just make sure it's going on straight and everything here. Once you get that started by hand, get it snug down with your fingers, come back. I have a 12mm socket. I'm not even going to put a wrench or nothing on it. Just snug it up a little bit. Don't want to overdo it by any means. Then we'll just double check, make sure that's completely counterclockwise, which it is. And then this piece, you're going to want the 0 to go straight up and down and line with that nipple there. And that just pushes right into place. Back to our truck, we can take the other end of the cable that's coming out of our brake controller, and that's just going to plug right into the back of our switch. Now we can go ahead and just reinstall our panels the opposite way that we removed them. At this point, we can do a quick check on our brake controller to make sure that it's working properly and is powered up and things like that. So I just plugged a test box into our 7-way, which simulates a trailer being plugged in. You can always use your trailer at home, but keep in mind if your trailer has any issues on its own, it might mislead you and thinking it's something you did on the truck side. With it plugged in, we have the knob lighting up here, so we know it's getting power. Just a real quick check. I'm going to turn it all the way up to 10 and push this knob down. And when I do that, that's a manual override, so it should send power back. And I hear our test box going off, so we should be in good shape. The controller needs to be calibrated now, so you can see the lights flashing from green to blue. And to calibrate it, you just got to drive it around like you normally would and do a handful of braking sequences. Really nothing special about it, just like your everyday driving, and it usually calibrates pretty quick. You can do it with the trailer hooked up or without. I usually do it without the trailer hooked up because my thought is I'd rather not be pulling a trailer around with a controller that's not calibrated. But if you got a safe spot to do it, great. Either way will work fine, so I'll go ahead and get that done now. After driving around, I got this calibrated, and this is how it looks. Just turned to a solid blue color. And with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the REDARC Tow-Pro Liberty trailer brake controller on our 2023 Chevrolet Colorado.